evening from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. And we all know what they say, Saturday night is alright for fighting, but was last night's AEW Collision alright? Well, we're going to break that down today, and to break it down, I'm going to need some help from a fantastic panel, so let's kick things off with the co-host of the show, Clark Taylor. Clark, how are you today?
What's going on, Ben? I'm doing awesome. I'm stoked to be here. It's an NFL Sunday, so I'm delighted by that. We had some awesome UFC action last night. Was delighted by that. We had some awesome collision action last night that we're going to get into. Was delighted by that as well. I'm just stoked to be here. Happy Sunday to everybody out there. And let's get into it, man. Let's get after it today.
Absolutely. And you got Bobby Batito in the comments here saying, I hope you guys are having a great Sunday. I hope you're having a great Sunday as well, Bobby. And yeah, Clark, you just mentioned the UFC last night. Tom Aspinall, the new heavyweight champion, the interim heavyweight champion. Well, he will show John Bones Jones who the real world champion is very, very soon, whenever Jones is
in the words of Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. Not so fast, my friend.
It's happening. It's happening. I'm calling it now. I'm saying it. Tom Aspinall will be that guy. John Bones Jones will be running scared. But last but certainly not least, we have Bret Sternberg. Bret, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. I have a co-host in the back as well. But yeah, we had a great Saturday for wrestling and action sports in general. And I know that some people on this show might not have liked the card last night, but I wasn't too mad about it.
Yeah, no, and those people you're talking about is me right here. I'm going to get into my thoughts on the show. I like parts of it, by the way. I didn't just hate the show, but it just felt, once again, the matches were just very random for me. And I'm a story guy. You guys know this. But we do have a comment here from Bobby as well saying Logan Paul was at the UFC. Yes, he was. And he gave Dominic Mysterio a shout out, which is awesome. Logan Paul gets it. He understands this business and he understands how to get heat. So bravo to him. But let's now just jump right into All Elite Wrestling's Collision from last night, where Andrade El Idolo opened the show with his match against Daniel Garcia. And the big headline from this was Andrade is now, he has officially sided himself with CJ Perry. CJ Perry is Andrade's new manager, and Miro was watching this match on the monitor, and he did not seem too happy. Clark, give me your take on the match.
I absolutely love it. Daniel Garcia is an excellent professional wrestler. I really liked this matchup in general, and the way that it wove in Miro and Andrade. I mean, we've seen the pictures from 2018 during Rusev Day, right? Like, there's so much there, and you have CJ at the helm with Andrade. This is a funky thing for me. Andrade, in my eyes, and I don't know if it's good, bad, or indifferent, but he seems to be better with a manager. He just does. In every way, and I'm excited to see an Andrade Miro rivalry, and I hope it's a building block for both within AEW, because I think they're both underutilized and underrated talents. So I'm all for it, and to have Daniel Garcia put on that type of a match out of the gates with Andrade, who am I to complain? Come on, I dug it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I will agree with it again. For me, maybe lacked a little bit of storyline in the match itself, but I am liking the partnership with CJ Perry and, of course, Andrade as well. Like you said, I do agree. Andrade is better with a manager. Him and Zelina Vega will just gold together. They were so perfect in NXT. It didn't quite translate to the main roster. I think it should have translated to the main roster. I just don't think they were given enough to work with, to be honest with you, in WWE. But here's my issue, and this isn't really an issue because, like you said as well, I'm excited for the feud Andrade Miro. But my thing is, I don't think this CJ Perry Andrade thing is a long-term thing. And I do wish that Andrade, had a long-term manager which really could take him to that next level. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong, but I do think this is just for his feud with Miro. But at least they're doing something with both of them, and I'm excited for this feud, absolutely. Brett, give me your take on this opener.
Yeah, I believe that the storyline definitely lacked a tiny bit, as well as you were saying before. I do believe that CJ Perry, as we call her now, I was about to call her Lana for a second. CJ Perry kind of was a little awkward at ringside last night, in my opinion. So it was a little off to me. I love the match. I love where they're going with it. And I think that Andrade is driving this home in a sense. But at the same time, I don't know if Miro, because he was smiling backstage, Miro, when after the match and like banging the TV, like slapping it. He wasn't necessarily punching it or anything. I don't know where this is going, if they're going to run into a feud or if this is all just a concoction to get Miro over. And then CJ Perry's going to end up kind of going back to him in the long run after she gets all these wrestlers worn out.
Yeah. No, I do agree with you, Brad. I do think that is the direction, they are heading, because I know we just said, Andrade is great with the manager. Lana, and now known as CJ Perry, and Rusev, now known as Miro, were phenomenal together. Their chemistry, of course, they're together in real life, but their chemistry on screen is just amazing. So I'm not going to hate it if that's when they do get back together on screen. So yeah, I'm not going to complain about that whatsoever, but just I don't know, right? Here's my issue with it. Daniel Garcia, Andrade, they're put on a good match, but to open a show that you meant to, hook fans in with a storyline. This felt like, if this was just in the middle of, the card, in between, some big storylines, I wouldn't have an issue with it, because it's, telling a long-term story with Andrade and Miro. But to open the show, I just don't think this is the big story you should have to open the show, because there was just no story in the match between them two themselves. I mean, again, listen, I know AEW fans, I think a lot of them do disagree with me, and they like to start it with just a great wrestling match, which this was. But ratings-wise, I think it might just be a bit too niche to open it every week. Just a great wrestling match.
So what I argue, though, is in this scenario, I actually think they did something really smart in that, yes, they opened it with a great wrestling match that wasn't necessarily about the story told in the match, and you have Miro backstage throughout the match telling you a story as well.
That's true.
And I do think I disagree with you on that one, Ben. Obviously, all love, but like,
Yeah.
right? Like, I think at the end of the day, this open made a ton of sense because you put on an outstanding match, which is something we never complain about on Collision, right?
I think outstanding is
managed to keep
stretch.
that. Well, whatever, right? It was a very, very
above
very
average,
solid,
above average.
bell to bell match. It was high quality professional wrestling. And then you add in the layer of the Miro storytelling, the layer of the manager storytelling. This I actually think is closer to what we were looking for out of AEW. And it's kind of the best of both worlds, which in its own way, to me, there's some brilliance in that, right?
I don't disagree with you there. That's exactly what we've been asking for the past few weeks, and we get it, and now we're complaining about it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
I would have liked this in the middle of. I'm just a big believer, right? And this is what I literally praised Collision. So you can go back. I'm not a hypocrite.
No, I know that.
I praised Collision for doing what I'm about to say when they did it the first few weeks. I think the opening of a show should be to build the main event, right? Not always, but a lot of the time. Let's say if you have a stacked card and you have a big match to kick off the night, do it. Brilliant, nice and refreshing. It doesn't always need to be a segment, but I think you need to kick off the show in a big way. And listen, this is good. Like you said, in advance, a bigger storyline. But to open a show, it just didn't hook you in right away. And that's what I think, I think Collision needs to do, because it's down on ratings. That's the fact of the matter. And yeah, story is king.
I think that maybe they were waiting to I feel like it was like Clark was saying, it's more of like an anticipation thing that was going on last night. So maybe it was like, okay, we're anticipating something's going to happen. Let's really fixate on this match. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. It to me, it's funny. Like, I hear you on and you know, we've discussed back and forth numerous times too, the thing about the opening segment building the main event. I don't think that necessarily, this felt to me like a classic, you know, an old term curtain jerker, right? Like, look, we got Garcia versus Andrade right out of the gates. And then not only that, we have the Miro factor and the Lana factor at play. So you're going to get good wrestling. I don't mind it there because I felt like the main event was built pretty shortly thereafter, and you've only got the 2 hours anyway. I unless you're going to open with like a promo, it's hard to build.
That's what I do personally.
See, I think that's maybe personal preference. I don't.
Oh no, it absolutely is. But I mean, we're always going to disagree on this. But I just personally feel like the majority of people like, you know, a promo or something big to open the show, whereas a more hardcore, more niche audience, which by the way, AEW, you know, very much it has a lot of, does like it to open with wrestling. But the thing is, when viewers are down, you got to think to yourself, hang on a second, maybe we do need to try and get a bit more into that the casual wrestling fan base. And I don't think carrying on with what they're doing is how to fix that.
I hear that, but I will say I don't actually mind at all the wrestling out of the gates to hook you, because that at the end of the day it is
a wrestling
total. It's a wrestling show.
Well, that's what they've been doing for the past few weeks, or their entire existence. They've been opening the gate with a banger, and I guess what we were expecting was that it just didn't live up to that just quite nearly.
Yeah,
100%. I think both can work, by the way, too, to be clear. Like, I do think promos can work out of the gates. Yeah.
I also want to see Garcia. I want to see Garcia and Daddy Magic feud a little bit too more.
I would actually love that.
I mean, choose another thing though too. I do think one element of this, and I'm a big Daniel Garcia guy, I love that style, but I think that style for opening a show, I'm not sure if that's the type of thing to, you know, get you really excited and, you know, pulled into it. But then again, you know, his dancing and all that, charisma, he's improved so much with. So I'm not here to, you know, criticize Daniel Garcia, but just the match, I don't know.
To your point, I think after this year, he's earned kind of that opener status. Like, you can plug and play him in multiple slots on the card, right? Whether it's tagging, whether it's in a very technical bout like he had with Andrade, right? Or it's, you know what I mean, a feud now. And I think that kind of almost like utility player, like he does all of those.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like it's at this point, I feel like it used to be like, oh, well, he's great bell to bell. Now we look at Garcia and we say things like, I don't know exactly what even his strength is, but he's really good at everything.
Yeah, he's improved so much. It's just like I said, to wrap it up, I personally think if it's going to be a match, it can be a match. It can be a match half the time, promo segment half the time. But if it is a match, it needs to be a match with a storyline currently between those two wrestlers or that tag team or whatever. And in the middle of the show is when you do matches like this, which in my opinion is when, you know, you can then do this bigger story like Andrade Miro. But let's now jump into something that I really did like. And that was Hangman Adam Page's promo. I mean, Hangman has had quite a few great promos in All Elite Wrestling, and this was another one. The rivalry between Swerve and Hangman, we've been praising it tons. Universally, this feud has just been loved. And Hangman, I don't want to say took it to the next level, because I think it was already there, but he certainly cemented it as, you know, one of the biggest rivalries in AEW right now with that promo. You could just tell, I don't want to say it was a heel promo, sorry, but there was heelish elements to it. Hangman Page was saying that, you know, Swerve should, you know, kiss his family goodbye because he's not going to be able to see them again once he's done with him. And, of course, after what Swerve has put Hangman through, it makes a lot of sense. This was just one of those really, really great promos. I mean, I think maybe he could have done it to the crowd, and I think maybe it would have, you know, gone to another level. I think the crowd would have loved it. But for backstage promo segment, this was amazing, and it told a story. It advanced a story, so I'm very happy with this segment. Clark, give me your thoughts on it.
Hangman Page, in my eyes, is the most overlooked, underappreciated, current major talent we have in all of pro wrestling, and it's not close. He is so good everywhere, and you can't make it up. We talk about MJF in AEW. We talk about so many different people in AEW. We talk about so many different people in WWE. Hangman Adam Page gets it and gets every bit of it right almost every single time. He does not truly have a weakness. I didn't even see the heelish thing. The way I saw it was, no, pure emotion. You messed with my family and my home. And that amount of pride, he pushed him beyond any kind of storytelling to the point where I was absolutely locked in. It one of those things where that's just amazing, and Swerve deserves credit for the storytelling part of this. It's brilliant. It was so easy to suspend disbelief, and he makes it easy every time in my eyes in a way that others don't. Anxious Millennial Cowboy, believable. It has everything to do with his backstory, all of this new family and the break-in, believable. He's got on even the simple stuff, the all black, the black leather jacket, way simplified outfit. He's not happy. And you have Swerve on the other side of it. What more in the world as a wrestling fan could I ask for? But Hangman Adam Page deserves his flowers. He is an absolutely world-class talent. And I think we're a year or two away from the best story in wrestling that you can tell, which is going to be Hangman and Max for the title.
Okay, you fixed yourself there. I was about to say. I love the story. What they're doing is amazing. Swerve deserves to be a top tier highlighted talent throughout the entire company. Saturday, Wednesday, Friday, doesn't matter. Friday's another story, obviously, but we'll talk about that later. I do think that this is really cool, though. Hangman tapping into that whole cowboy, not heel, but like cowboy, like back in the day, Wild West type of feeling, like gritty attitude. I would have loved to see, as Ben, as you had mentioned before, crowd play. I would have loved to see Hangman maybe do it in the crowd with something like of Swerve's as hostage in a sense. Like maybe not a person or a wrestler, maybe an item that he holds close to him, because this man literally went into his house. So yeah, it is that personal. So I loved it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it was universally loved, just like I said, the storyline is. And I mean, really, the only thing in wrestling between a face and a heel is a good storyline. And this certainly is one of those. But now let's move on and let's talk about Nick Wayne, who recently adopted Christian Cage as his real father in a storyline which I have been I have enjoyed quite a bit. I'm gonna be honest, I feel like it's lost a little bit of steam since Adam Copeland's got there. I really wish Christian Cage got a little bit more time on the mic as of late, but still, great to see Nick Wayne on TV. He's certainly in a better position than I thought he'd be this early into his AEW Collision career. Not AEW Collision career, AEW career. But the one issue I had with this, and it feels like I'm complaining again, but I guess I am. Dalton Castle, he is great. He is amazing. Everybody says that. Everybody knows that. But in AEW, he's been treated like an absolute jobber, yet he is on TV each and every week. The guy, has like a 10-15 minute match most weeks, yet loses every time. I don't know why we should suspend our disbelief for this 10-15 minutes each week. And we just know he's going to lose. They've not told us enough about him on AEW TV. I know who he is because I've watched Ring of Honor for years. But to the casual fan, not even just casual fan, to anybody who's not watched Ring of Honor, they're not really going to know much about him. They'll think, oh, he's got a good look. Oh, he's good in ring. But, he loses every week. And please, just tell me a story. Brett, what were your thoughts on this one?
I completely understand where you're coming from. I am a huge fan of Dalton Castle and wish they really would do something about this, because his entrance, his aura, everything about him when he is out there screams superstar. And I really wish that they would hone in on this and find a storyline for him that would fit that, because I know for a fact these fans, if he wasn't losing every week because they don't know who a Dalton Castle might be to AEW crowd, they would be so all over this guy, like as they are the Acclaimed. It's a very similar type of gimmick, if you know what I'm trying to say, in a sense, not exactly, but in a sense. Now, with this specific match, the only reason I believe that Nick Wayne's great. Love Nick Wayne. I don't believe he has any mic skills, obviously, because he's very green on the mic, as we all know. I believe that Luchasaurus not saying anything doesn't help that faction out either. But I also do believe that they're kind of shoving it down our throats now. I think that Christian is doing an amazing job, and he's kind of keeping everyone afloat who's on his team. But they need another big player who has a mouth that isn't always Christian, because like you're saying, it's getting a little boring in a sense, but I don't think boring would be the word to use, maybe stale, because some of these people just need to be pushed a little more. And if they were maybe on the stage, maybe they would come out with something brilliant. You never know. I just think that they need the opportunity to do so, like a Nick Wayne or a Luchasaurus. I just wish they would give someone else the mic other than Christian. But while saying that, Christian holds his team up by himself. He's an amazing heel. He will always be one of the best heels, in my opinion, in the industry. So all credit to him. But this match was great. I just think that Dalton Castle needs way more credibility in this company than he's getting.
Yeah, undoubtedly. It's one of those, and I understand. I mean, Anthony Manzano's agreeing with you that he's getting a bit bored of the storyline. I really don't think that we should be getting bored of it. I think they just need to be giving Christian Cage a bit more mic time. Because right before Adam Copeland arrived, everybody was so invested into this storyline with Christian Cage, where, we all joking he's everyone's father and all, all of those jokes. And it was very entertaining, but it's just kind of like it's lost a little bit of steam. I don't want to say because they're focusing on Adam Copeland. I don't want to blame it on anybody whatsoever, because it's nobody's fault. It's just they need to be given, I think, Christian Cage a bit more mic time. In a way, I mean, Bobby Petito is saying that Nick Wayne has all the potential, and Clark, you're muted. Wait, what's happening? You've muted yourself, Clark.
It's okay. We're all here.
I'm muted. Okay. I was gonna say, I feel like the biggest problem with this one is only like it sucks to see Dalton Castle put in the spot to be out there only to put over Nick Wayne.
Yep.
If he was putting over Christian, that seems fair. I think that's the precipice of the problem.
Even Luchasaurus would have been somewhat fair.
Even Luchasaurus would have felt more fair. I agree. But Nick Wayne does have to go over somebody on TV.
He does. It's just Dalton Castle's being that guy for everyone each week.
Yeah.
I think no matter who you put Castle against this week, I think he should have won whoever he faced this week, because he's lost literally, I think, every match he's had on AEW TV. Unless maybe some on Rampage. But again, not enough of the audience watches Rampage, and not enough of the audience watches Ring of Honor for you to, unless you're showing recaps all the time, which they're not doing, for you to, consider that part of the story and to see, his legitimacy. But let's now move on. And let's again move on to something a bit nicer. Let's move on to two people who I'm a big fan of, and that is Willow and Julia Hart. Listen, I praise these two women all the time, nearly every week. Willow has that natural face ability that you cannot teach, that you cannot describe. You either have it or you don't, and Willow has it. Julia Hart, ever since she turned, to this dark heel and joined the House of Black, she has been outstanding. The fact that she, now has a proper, developed character, it makes her stand out in that women's division, and it really does take her to another level, in my opinion. These two women, absolutely great stuff. But Clark, what do you think about this match?
Oh, Willow Nightingale just has absolutely it, like you mentioned. I mean, all of it in every way. if you don't like Willow Nightingale, I don't understand. You just don't like anything, right? There's nothing but likability oozing out of her. It's awesome. Like, how can you not root for Willow? And then you have Julia Hart, who's put this work in, and the backstory is so cool. And it's amazing what she's been able to accomplish going from the cheerleader, right, to this character is nothing short of impressive, especially given her age. The match was awesome. I enjoyed it. I do think it felt like at the end that the crowd was a little disappointed in the result.
Yep.
Because Willow's that over, but let's not lose sight of that, right? I think a lot of that has to do with how much the crowd loves Willow Nightingale, and that doesn't necessarily make it bad booking, right?
No, absolutely not.
In some ways, it makes it really good booking, and we want to see Willow get her comeuppance against Julia Hart in the long run. So the next time we get this, let's hope for that or at least some sort of payoff, continued storytelling. That's all we've asked for. We complained, about the AEW women's division for months on end over here, and deservedly so at times. It's such a talented division, and it's getting better and better each week recently, and I got to give flowers where it's deserved because it is getting better.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's slow steps, but they're making steps. And Julia Hart, I think, was that first step. Obviously, Willow's, climb. I mean, because they didn't change anything up with her. It was just, she joined the company and has, slowly been climbing up the ranks. And of course, now we're seeing Sky Blue develop this new character as well. Toni Storm, definitely need to mention her. We're seeing more characters, and I mean, listen. It shouldn't be rocket science to figure out that, wrestling needs characters. But hey, it's finally happening now in this women's division, and it's making, fans a lot more invested into it. And I'm just really, really happy to see it. We got a couple of comments here. Firstly, we got Bobby Petito saying Julia Hart will be the one to beat Chris Statlander for the TBS Championship. And we also have what I presume is Brett's lady friend saying, Brett is serving. That smile is dangerous, sir. Shout out to you, but now let's move on. And let's now move on to, we got a comment. Do we have, no, we don't have time.
Really quick, I want to say Julia Hart, the reason why the crowd didn't catch on last night is because Julia Hart didn't look as strong as Willow.
Yeah.
Willow just looks good every single time she's out there, and Julia Hart does not, unfortunately. It's like on and off sometimes. Yeah, I'm sorry, Ben.
I don't know.
For me, she's
praising AEW on this one.
Not for me, she's not really capturing that. She's like playing the role of the dark figure. She's not the dark figure yet.
See, I think she's getting closer. I think the interaction with Sky Blue was pretty good a week ago.
Yeah,
I would have agreed with you.
Yes.
I think a week and a half ago, way faster than, you know what I mean? Now I think we're getting, I do want to give Julia Hart credit. I think she's starting to chip away.
Oh yeah.
And get to the point where she's really hitting her stride. You know what I mean? Like she hasn't fully hit it yet. And I think she's also 5 to 6 years away from her prime.
Yeah, I'm not taking any credit away from her whatsoever. And I also believe that Sky Blue is going to end up joining her at one point.
Ooh, that would be.
That's why she's.
I don't think that's where we're going now. I think that's what they were teasing, and now I think they have just split the story up and gone. No, it's a feud, not a partnership. Between the two, because I think that's where it's going now. Because they kind of did kill that. I think I might have a problem if they go back in that direction now, because they've already
You know what I would find interesting before we move on though, really quickly, is how about either Penelope Ford or the Bunny teaming with Julia Hart? Now, then you have Sky Blue on the other side with Willow tag match along the way to keep the whole feud going.
Yeah, I mean the Bunny has been officially removed from AEW's.com's roster page this week.
Right.
But Penelope Ford's still there, so who knows? Maybe you can run it there, or maybe the Bunny leaving's a work. Ooh, we like to speculate on those things, don't we? Now let's move on.
Somebody does.
And let's talk about Powerhouse Hobbs. You guys know I'm a big fan of him. He won a squash match. It seems to be the only types of matches he wins nowadays. In fairness, that's wrong. He's won a couple of big matches lately, but after the match, after the squash match, Don Callis cut a promo on Paul White, who was sitting at commentary, and the crowd just didn't care about this promo. They just did not care one bit. Don Callis, who I'm usually a fan of on the mic, his insults here were just a little weak. Paul White didn't look like, the big man who, he should have been getting mad about this, or at least intimidated. Instead, he just kind of like sat there awkwardly, like he didn't really, know what to do. Powerhouse Hobbs and Paul White got separated, but it looked a little weak, to be honest with you. It should have taken a lot more security, I think, to separate them. But anyway, 6-man tag team match next week on Dynamite. Brett, what did you think on this one?
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that. I do think the crowd was more invested in this little segment that we had last night rather than other parts of the show, because there was more star power out there than there was for other parts of the show, in my opinion, rather than the main event, obviously, which was following that. But I believe that you're right. With Paul White was out there, he looked a little weak in a sense, because let's be real, he is a little weak at this point in his life. He's been through tremendous amounts of injuries, but that's not saying that he can't do anything still. I'm not taking that away from him. He came in the company. I will say this. He said that he wanted to work with certain individuals. He literally named Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, and I'm pretty sure he said Kota Ibushi. I'm not positive, but he said a few names. I remember that. And the fact that he's even being able to do this in his career, maybe as his last match, who knows, is tremendous for him. All power to him. I know we're talking about the promo here. I'm not talking about Paul White, but I'm just giving you the perspective that I had. Now, last night's promo, I will say it was a little boring. Don Callis just comes off as cringeworthy to me sometimes. And last night was one of those times where he did come off cringeworthy. And it was more of, can we get past this promo, or can something happen now, rather than taking up time on this show? And I think that Hobbs looked actually weaker than Paul White in this situation, because when he hit the table and the top bounced at Paul White and Paul White flipped it up at him, Hobbs kind of went flying a little too far, in my opinion, for the crowd, and it just didn't really do Hobbs a favor, in my opinion. So I liked it from a TV perspective. I don't know how the crowd took it, but I don't know. I wasn't so mad at it for them showing this to bring in more of a storyline for this match, which is what we're talking about.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's true. That is a good point. But now let's move on. Let's move on to the main event of AEW Collision, because you can bet on a few things in life. One of those is the main event of Collision each and every single week is a banger of a match. This one didn't quite live up to that level, but it was still, a solid main event match. But here's my issue, right? If you're going to create a faction, if you're going to create a stable, then you need to build them up. You need to establish them. You can't have them lose their first match like this, unless there's going to be some bigger story, but I don't think there will be. I think that now they'll just be around the mid-card, losing, sometimes winning, sometimes on Rampage, and that's it. If you're going to create a faction, it's got to matter. I've criticized WWE for the Street Profits and Bobby Lashley thing after, I can't remember what pay-per-view it was, but when Carlito returned to help the LWO beat them. When you create a new faction, it needs to look strong. Lance Archer, The Righteous, they are great together, right? They are super, super strong. I think they have great potential, right? And Lance Archer has been so underrated in this company. The Righteous have a lot of potential. And yes, obviously they're going to lose to Adam Copeland, Sting, and Darby Allin. But why did this match happen in the first place? Why? Just so you can give Adam Copeland, Sting, and Darby Allin a bit of momentum heading into Full Gear. I mean, it almost would have been more special to say they were teaming for the first time at Full Gear. This match was completely and utterly pointless. And it's just, again, the story. You're just not giving us a reason to care about Lance Archer and the Righteous now. And we deserve a reason to care because they are great, great talents, right? This match, if you built up Lance Archer and the Righteous properly, could have been a big match down the line.
Yeah.
But, oh well. I mean, Brett, I'll send this one to you first. What did you think about it?
Thank you for doing that, by the way, because I do have something to say about that storyline that you were just saying. And I know Clark's anxiously waiting back there, getting ready to go. But I definitely feel like before the match, you know how they tell the story with Mark Henry and everything like that. I mean, that's on Rampage, actually. They tell the story before the match anyway, before the main event, no matter what. They should have done a way better job of making them fit together and looking them more uniform as a team. It was just a bunch of people talking, and it made me more confused about why they were together, how they were together, how they came across each other. Yeah, Jake the Snake had said, "Oh, they caught my eye," but no, I really wish that we would kind of like get more of a story rather than a legend who's with a big guy catching someone's eye. I just think that this should have been way more storytelling when it came to that opening segment, because they could have really taken advantage of that time, in my opinion. Now, I do believe that the match itself was kind of whatever to me. They hit all of the one-timers, as Clark would say, or their special moves, but I just think it was just like Ben, you were saying, like a thrown together match. They had some talent there. I just feel like they're trying to garner a story that isn't there yet.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, like I said, this match could have had a lot of potential. Bobby Petito's agreeing, saying they should build up Lance Archer and the Righteous. They absolutely, they should have before this, or, just not done this match yet and had them, face another team or something like that. It's just, you're going to need not everyone can win all the time, absolutely. But if people are going to be on TV each week, you need to firstly establish them and establish them well. And then after that, if you want to do 50-50 booking, whatever, go for it. But you need to establish them first. Clark, what's your take on this main event of AEW Collision?
So I'm going to get all zen here and go a different route for a second, only because we've had some interesting comments here. I'm actually going to show one myself here, Ben. We have Bobby Petito, what they should build Lance Archer and the Righteous. I agree. And this is interesting. We've for a long time discussed AEW, and we talk about how they market to hardcore fans and not casual fans. Well, if you were a casual fan watching last night, it's the first time you saw Lance Archer and the Righteous. And now you can build. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to go over. If you are building to the casual fan base for a second. So guess what? Yes, they lost the match. And I understand, as we all watch every week, right? And we have these conversations about it. And I agree on so many things. Lance Archer's entrance to me is one of those electric in all of AEW. It's phenomenal. It makes perfect sense. It's a little bit like Wardlow. That's neither here nor there. In the sense of it's so good, you don't understand why it hasn't been capitalized upon.
Mm-hmm.
But why not start now? Why not start now? Now from here, we've seen the Righteous. I've seen them, right? You've seen them. Brett's seen them, but more people have now. And you have Lance Archer, and we build upon that towards a brighter future for those three. Also, it never gets old for a guy like me that was a little stinger seeing Sting work on his retirement tour. So I can't complain too much about this match. I had to really think about the way I was going to go with what I was going to say about this match, because Sting meant the world to me as a little kid. He was my absolute fave, like the man, a legend, and deserves it, Now that's biased, I get it, but no spoilers at least. But then on top of that, we got Adam Copeland and Darby, and so who am I to overly complain? I totally agree. A bigger story between these two for a match would be amazing. Why not necessarily later? if we can build on this momentum after, because we all saw the same thing, the charisma from the Righteous and Lance Archer, right? We've all always seen it. Why not build on it now? And I don't see why AEW can't. Do I believe they will? I don't know. That's not the question I was trying to answer. Probably not. But a kid can hope, right?
Are you talking about a match between the Righteous and Lance Archer, or are you talking about them together?
Taking the idea of putting the Righteous and Lance Archer together, having them in the main event of a Saturday night show, and building upon that even after a loss.
That's what, yeah.
It's still possible. I think we've accepted.
I disagree. Right? If you were a casual fan tuning in last night, right, you would have seen Lance Archer and the Righteous teaming together for the first time, yes, right? I mean, technically any fan, but you would have seen them in the main eventing together for the first time, and you would have seen them lose to a 60-year-old almost retired Sting, an aging Edge, and the I Love Turtles kid. I'm only joking. I'm only joking about that, but in all seriousness, they didn't look good.
Ben, we've taken the 50-50 booking in the big old E for years.
I've criticized it, but I've criticized it every time.
You personally, but what I'm saying is, as a fan base, we've accepted it. It happens. I feel like, there's more ebbs and flows booking wise, and at least we got them on TV in a main event spot. Did they look great? Not necessarily in their entrance. Yes.
In the entrance,
they should have capitalized before that in the storyline. I'm telling you, they had that gap. They had that TV time. They should have really honed in on that and created something, and they missed an opportunity.
And I agree with Bret.
Why not? Why not, honestly, remove one of these segments from the show and have had the opening segment be a Lance Archer, Jake the Snake, and Righteous promo, with the other three then coming out, building up the main event, and then following that, do the Andrade Miro match, like I said at the beginning of the show.
Not mad at that.
Would that have answered this problem? Yeah.
Yeah, not mad at that.
It would have in hindsight. In the future, I think, though, this is something that could be built upon.
Oh yeah, this is really cool.
What's going anything can be built upon.
No, but this is really cool. The Lance Archer, Righteous, because you got the killer, and then you got the whole, we're a cult, but they fit kind of perfectly. So I really do wish they hone in on it and just build upon it. That's it.
Yeah. I think they can lean into it. I don't think it's necessarily a lost opportunity. I think it's a missed opportunity.
That's exactly what I said.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll agree. I do agree with things you both said on that one. Listen, this doesn't mean Lance Archer and the Righteous are ruined. You can save them from here, right? It's not all doom and gloom, but you need to save them. But it's just the fact of we've seen it so many times with other factions in AEW where I'm just a bit worried they're not going to save them because they have so much potential, but they only just formed last week. The next week, they shouldn't be losing. The only time when a team should be losing straight away, if it's like a can they coexist storyline or something like that, and then their chemistry improves as time goes on or something like that. But that's usually a more baby-faced, faction, which this isn't. So it just didn't make sense for the storyline for me. But you're right. More people now know Lance Archer and the Righteous than they did a couple of nights ago. But, I mean, do they know them for good reasons? I guess that's the question.
They better capitalize on them because I'm worried as well. I don't want them to throw away this whatsoever.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I do think it's hard to pick people to lose, right, when you're booking, I would assume. That has to be the hardest part of the job. But having Archer in a main event on Collision on Saturday night with the Righteous, I think is a big deal, even in a loss.
Losing is just as important.
That was going to be the case, though.
Losing is just as important, though, as winning in this industry.
It's true.
It's true, but when it's a newly established faction, it's one of those things.
But
we do have to wrap things up now. We do need to wrap things up. It's been a great show, guys. A lot of healthy debate here But talking about healthy debate, send us in some questions tomorrow for Mailbag Monday. It'll be going up straight after the show on our Instagram story. Send us in some questions. We'll answer them on tomorrow's show. Certainly will be an interesting show. Thank you to Clark. Thank you to Bret for joining me here today. If you did enjoy this episode, please like, subscribe, and share. It really does help us out massively. If you're on Spotify, cheeky 5 stars always helps us out. Thank you guys so much for commenting, watching, all of that good stuff. And we will see you tomorrow. Enjoy your Sunday. See you guys.
Happy Veterans Day.
Yes.